Hello, everyone. I'm just going to invite you to stand for our land acknowledgement. So before we begin this convocation ceremony, I just want to acknowledge the land that we're on. Stanford sits on the ancestral and unceded land of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. This land was and continues to be of great importance to the Ohlone people. Consistent with our values of community and inclusion, we have a responsibility to acknowledge, honor, and make visible the university's relationship to Native peoples. Today and going forward, I challenge you all to think about how our ability to study and live on this land is intrinsically interconnected with the lives of the Muwekma Ohlone. And as you continue on with your studies and future career, I invite you to think about how the law can and does impact Indigenous peoples. I encourage you to uplift and amplify their voices. As we say in my Indigenous language, Yakoki, thank you.
Sorry, I'll invite you to continue to stand. I apologize. Thank you. In a spirit of honor and reverence, let us be together. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. God commands justice, doing good, and generosity towards relatives, and forbids what is shameful, blameworthy, and oppressive. God teaches you so that you may be mindful. As you enter this new season of labor and study, may you be grounded in justice and in compassion.
May the words of your texts come alive as agents of hope. In a world flooded with information and parched for justice, guide our learning, our teaching, our living with courageous loving. Shape our hearts as surely as our minds around the common good, and help us to discover what is most good in that which is most common.
In the words of the rabbinic tradition and the biblical prophets, Hu haya omer, lo alecha v'hamlacha ligmor, v'lo ata ben chorin libatel mimena. Uma Adonai doresh mimcha, Ki im asot mishpat, v'ahavat chesed, v'hatsnea lechet im Elohecha. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Do not be daunted by the enormity of what lies ahead. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. And may the learning community being formed here today bring forth tzedek, justice, and let it flow like a mighty river.
And so, in all we do, let us bring to it hearts of wisdom. May we care for one another as we care for ourselves. Moving forward together on our path towards learning and understanding, may we ever remain curious, steadfast, engaged. And finally, with open hearts, discerning minds, and compassionate action, may we all continue to be these things and more as seekers of justice and peace for the benefit of all humanity. Amen, Amin, and Ashe. You may be seated.
Hello, classes of 2025, 2024, and 2023, Dean Martinez, distinguished faculty, and esteemed staff. It is so good to be with you today. My name is Sierra Martinez, and I use he, him pronouns. I direct a program at a place called Energy Foundation, which is a place where I work on solving the climate and equity crises. And I want to thank you for having me. I am feeling joyous about kicking off this year with you. And I'm feeling honored that we have this time together. And I'm feeling excited about all that lies in front of y'all right now. Congratulations to you for being here. You know, those seats you're sitting in, there is no easy path to get there. What it represents is that your hard work paid off. and you deserve to feel good about being here. I certainly remember it vividly when I opened my Stanford Law School acceptance letter. I nearly fell off the couch. I jumped up, strapped my running shoes on, I bolted out the door, ran around the block like a maniac. It felt so good. So carry that goodness and that feeling forward through your journey at Stanford Law School. When I arrived here, I also had insecurities and worries. I thought, how do I fit in here? What's my place? Am I smart enough? And at the end of the day, all that actually mattered was that you put in the best effort you can and that you're true to yourself during your journey here. And that was a tough lesson to learn, but an important one. The other thing I want to mention as an aside, there is no single metric for intelligence in the world. It's actually a really tough thing to define what actually is intelligence. And probably the best thing going for it, definition, could be that thing that you worry you don't have enough of. It's just really tough. But if you're hearing my voice, you belong here. Or if you're seeing sign language or reading a transcript, you belong here. And in 3 years' time, or when it comes to the end of your time at Stanford Law School, you will become a Stanford Law School graduate. That's what's going to happen. So I mentioned I work in climate philanthropy, like that's an ordinary thing for lawyers to do. But when I was sitting in your seat, I had no idea that there was a job out there that could be held capably by lawyers, where you give money to other groups, you collaborate with them, you provide resources to them to help fight the climate inequity crises. And by the time that chair became a graduation seat, I still had no idea that that job existed. And so my message to you is that there is a wider potential of legal career arcs than meets the eye now and that meets the eye in 3 years. And to seek that broader potential of what your law degree enables you to do. I didn't have a clear path into how I would get to where I am, working to change energy systems. I didn't have family in the energy field. I didn't know anyone who worked on energy. All I knew is when I would read an article about a clean energy technology, I felt jazzed. And then when I would read an article about climate devastation and displacement, I felt concerned. I said, sign me up for that battle. And then when I took my first energy law class, it spoke to me. And so my recommendation to you is to listen to what speaks to you. Follow what tugs on your heartstrings. And for me, what tugged on my heartstrings was heat pump technology. That might not be the same for you. Whatever tugs at your heartstrings, follow that. Listen to yourself. Because listening is an undervalued legal skill. Arguing its opposite is sufficiently valued. But to be persuasive, listening is absolutely critical. And my path to being where I am was certainly circuitous. When I graduated in June of 2008 from this law school, I had a law firm job in hand at a law firm called Heller Ehrman, where I was going to work on energy litigation for a major utility, PG&E. And I thought that I had serious financial insecurity, and I thought this law firm would be the entity that would pay off my loans, help me. And it turned out that LRAP was the entity that would help me pay off my loans. But so I had this law firm job in hand. I spent that summer of 2008 studying for the bar. And then after you're done with the bar, you get to take a post-bar trip to decompress and debrief. And so I went with my then girlfriend, now wife. We flew to the Yucatan in Mexico, and we bounced around the Mexican Riviera from town to town, sitting on white sand beaches, looking at clear water rolling up on the shore and receding. And I went into town one day to check my email at an internet cafe, because that's what you had to do back then, to check email in a foreign country. And there was an email in my inbox from the law firm HR, and it said, Sierra, you might want to start looking for another job. I thought, hold the margarita. What was beginning to unfold was the Great Recession of 2008. And in 3 months' time, that law firm would declare bankruptcy, and nobody there would have a job. So I came back to the States and I worked in northern New Mexico, volunteered on Obama's general election campaign. And it turned out to be some of the most meaningful work I could have imagined or hoped for. And then I continued to press on the job hunt and look for an opening in the energy field. And I spent several months unemployed and underemployed, living in my dad's spare bedroom on a twin bed. And ultimately a breakthrough came when I dusted off a contact that I had developed at the Stanford Environmental Law Clinic with Debbie Sivas. And I did work then advising NRDC, a client, on some climate policy. And so I reached out to that person and ultimately created a path to get a job and spawn my career. And even with those several months of severe struggle, I would have wished it upon myself 1,000 times. Because what it did is it forced me to combine my career interest with my personal interest. And I hope my time and my struggles enables you to save some time in finding that alignment. So listening to yourself, critical skill, listening to your opponents, important as well. I can't tell you how many times I've seen lawyers in the courtroom fail in cross-examination from not listening to their opponents. One of the things we would do in my line of work was cross-examine witness at public utilities commissions. They were arguing that we shouldn't take action to solve climate change. Myself, other lawyers, we would put in hard work to the most brilliant line of questioning we could imagine, how it's going to go. And then in real time, if we weren't paying attention to the words the opponent was speaking, our line of questioning became stymied. Paused with interruptions, clarifications, objections, but worst of all, it broke the narrative arc we were trying to reveal to persuade the decision maker, there the judge, that they should decide in our favor. Whether it's in the courtroom or outside, listening to the words of your opponent is a critical skill to persuasion. I also want to disabuse you of an insinuated idea in the legal profession that you do not have an interest. Yes, in your job you have a client's interest, but in your career you have your interest. The notion that you don't have agency to choose your job and career because you're a lawyer is a pernicious one, it's untruthful, and it risks legitimacy of our profession. You have agency in what you choose. Another thing we struggle with is listening across groups. So I don't need to tell you that our country is in the midst of a cultural civil war, and law has a tremendous role to play in how we ended up in this place. When the Chief Justice of the highest court in the land has to come to the people and argue that they shouldn't think the court is illegitimate, the point speaks for itself. When law backs the state's power, monopoly power on violence to kill unarmed black men and women and children without end, the point speaks for itself. Since before we were a country and through when we were a country, the racialization of our people and our legal system, of slavery, of black people, of indigenous people, of people in color and beyond, has woven systemic racism into the fabric of our culture and our people. And throughout history, folks have preyed upon that weakness and vulnerability of ours and exploited us. And so we are looking for a generation of Abraham Lincoln-style lawyers. We're looking to the next generation of lawyers to bridge our differences and to do it with integrity. Regardless of your race, whether you are black, white, indigenous, a person of color, multiracial, we need you to help mend our wounds. Whether you are rich, poor, or in between, we need your help. And it might not feel like you have this ability to play that role, but when you take your degree from this law school, you will inherit the power and the responsibility of what it means to be part of the legal apparatus of our country. And remember that law is not an object, it's an imagined reality. Living in imagined realities is probably our species' greatest advantage, greatest skill. It enables things like democracy and money to function. It's also our greatest vulnerability. It opens up conspiracy theories and racism. But law is one of those imagined realities. It's malleable, it's not fixed, and it needs to adapt. It's why our Constitution has amendments. Law needs to adapt. For a document that people never consented to today, to control and govern them, that law needs to adapt. For people to accept the governance of something they never assented to, and for it to bind people together, law needs to adapt. And so we look to you to help us in this grand and novel experiment in governance, to build the world's first multiracial democracy that is the world's current superpower, or rather the first inclusive, multicultural, multiracial democracy that coexists with a sovereign of indigenous peoples in a regenerative economy. That's a tall order, and it's of generational proportions. But the ears it lands on couldn't be better situated to effectuate it. There is something that stands in the way, and that is antiquated laws. That stands in the way. The idea that you have a predefined limit as a lawyer of what you can do stands in the way. And lawyers lawyering without taking individual responsibility for the collective impact of how law changes people's lives stands in the way. So my ask to you is to reject those predefined limits of what you can be as a lawyer and to embrace the invigorating and novel adventure of using law to become a more true version of yourself. We need you to do it more than ever. Thank you.
Hello, Stanford Law School. It is my pleasure to be standing up in front of you at the start of this school year. A few weeks ago, Stefan and I had the privilege of speaking to the new 1Ls and the new master's students to welcome them to campus, but now we get to welcome back everyone else. I hope you, like I've been able to do over the past couple of days, have had the opportunity to immerse yourself back in the law school community. There's something really special about this place when it's full of students who are eager to learn and explore the various opportunities that are presented to them. I'm really excited to be one of your law school co-presidents this year. In the weeks leading up to the start of the school year, I've been prompted to think more about the differences between starting school as a 2L versus starting as a 1L. And the biggest difference for me as a returning student is feeling like I have a strong sense of what the community is like and how quickly it can form. So for the new students who have had less of a chance to observe this aspect of Stanford law, here are some of the things that I've learned. SLS is a place where if you show a particular interest or enthusiasm in an area, administrators, professors, and your friends will start to notice and constantly feed you opportunities to pursue those interests. Whether that area is sports or film or a very complicated piece of government legislation. It's a place where a chance conversation with someone in a class or while sitting in Crocker Garden can bloom into a close friendship. And it's a place where you can discover your passion by taking a class in an area you never thought about or saying yes to some weekend adventure that inspires you in a new way. Over the course of the next year, I hope that everyone here gets the opportunity to explore much of what SLS has to offer. And along the way, I urge you to remember that all the skills, know-how, and people that got you here are the same ones you can rely on to be successful while at SLS and beyond.
Thank you, Haley. I'm underdressed. I know. In any case, welcome, especially to the 1Ls and the new advanced degree students. It's so good to see you again. I'll keep it brief, but first I just want to encourage a perspective exercise that I think will help you as this year toughens up. Please think about where you were before you were accepted to Stanford Law, everything you were worried about, all the uncertainty, and think about the relief that you felt when you got that phone call or email from Dean Deal. As things ramp up here over the next few weeks, I encourage you to remember that feeling. Knowing that your classmates would all be as amazing and interesting as you are, that you would be taught by many of the great legal minds working today. And that you wouldn't have to live in New Haven. Okay, seems the danger has subsided. I feel better about being underdressed now. I hope you're settling in well and you're enjoying all of your classes, and to the 1Ls that you take advantage of the Student Org Fair tomorrow and get involved in as many student organizations that interest you. Please check your email for how to join our organization. But law school, and this law school, especially in the wake of the pandemic, is a great place to see that the way things are is not necessarily the way things have to be. At this school, making changes or making something happen often starts with knocking on a door. And in addition to all of the fantastic legal training that you are giving to your mind, I really, really urge you to exercise this muscle. The direction, assertiveness, and curiosity necessary to knock on a door are going to be just as important to your legal career as all of the stuff you're learning. So thank you, and it's going to be a great year.
Dear faculty and staff, dear students of Stanford Law, my name is Janka Deli. I am a fourth-year GSD candidate. It is my pleasure to extend a special welcome to all the advanced degree students of Stanford Law School from around the world. Those in the GSM degree program, also called the Stanford Program in International Legal Studies, those in the LLM degree programs of Corporate Governance and Practice, Environmental Law and Policy, Law, Science and Technology, and International Economic Law, Business and Policy, as well as my fellow GSD students. As we join each other here today at the start of this academic year, I invite you to consider the immense privilege of studying here, and let the warmth of gratitude fill your heart for everyone in your life who has helped you get here. Our paths at Stanford Law School may greatly differ, lasting from 9 months for a master's degree program to 3 years for a JD degree, and 4 years or more for a doctorate in law. Regardless, our time here is an intense period of intellectual and personal growth, and a phase of transition and transformation. The one thing I urge you to carry with you today as you embark on your journey is that with talent comes responsibility, with privilege comes obligation, and with opportunity comes duty. Let me repeat that. With talent comes responsibility. With privilege comes obligation. And with opportunity comes duty. No matter how busy your year grows, please make space periodically to reflect on how you can pay your privilege forward and use your talent to serve others. Do consider how your personal and professional growth here at Stanford can translate into positive impact after graduation, whether in your immediate surroundings or on a bigger scale. I hope this sense of mission drives you through this academic year, your time at Stanford, and beyond. I hope it becomes an unlimited source of motivation throughout your careers. Thank you very much for your attention. I wish you all the very best for this academic year.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome you to the start of the academic year. Convocation is a moment to get together as our community, faculty, staff, and students, to reflect on the year ahead of us and to celebrate all that we have together before us. Who are we? Here at Stanford Law School, we have 62 full-time faculty members whose research and teaching mark them as national and international leaders in their fields. Whether publishing path-making scholarship or mentoring students one-on-one, we have the best law faculty in the world. We have a number of lecturers, full and part-time, who bring their practical legal expertise to the classroom and contribute to the unparalleled legal education we provide. Our 186 staff members keep this place running and provide vital intellectual and professional leadership in support of the school's research and teaching missions. We have research fellows, data scientists, librarians, IT experts, custodial staff, career counselors, administrative assistants, web designers, and so many other experienced professionals. Some members of our staff have been here for over 40 years and have helped us adapt to the ever-changing educational and professional landscape over decades. As for our students, you are an astonishing group. This year, 701 of you call Stanford Law School home, 584 JD students, and 117 advanced degree students in your ranks. In addition, we have 11 foreign exchange students joining us for the quarter. You hail from nearly every state in the United States, as well as countries around the globe. The list of languages you speak and use is impressive, the less common ones being Ancient Greek, Tongan, Quechua, Norwegian, Esan, Hopi, and ASL. You are equally adept and versatile with computer programming languages, most with unpronounceable acronyms for names. You are graced with athletic skills. Among your ranks are surfers, swimmers, soccer players, runners, long-distance sprinters, and every other distance in between, rowers, basketball and football players, golfers, scuba divers, boxers, bikers, skiers, fencers, sailors, figure skaters, and snowboarders. You thrive outdoors, backpacking, camping, fly fishing, birding, and canoeing. You're adventuresome and, yes, even some thrill seekers. We have skydivers, ultramarathoners, rock climbers, alpine climbing and bouldering, whitewater rafting, running with the bulls, wilderness backpacking, canyoneering, and most terrifyingly to me at least, free fall skydiving. Music is important to you. We've got flute, violin, viola, string bass, piano, drums, guitar, cello, harp, saxophone. I would like to see all of you together in the courtyard soon to provide some music for the rest of us. You compose music, you do musical theater, you sing a cappella, you love jazz, you love hip hop. In your spare time, you practice mindfulness and meditation, you flip old furniture, you brew kombucha. You could have a Stanford Law School branded, perhaps. You make watermelon jerky. Not surprisingly, many of you love debate, mock trial, and moot court. You bake bread and pastries, you garden, you play bridge, chess, and cribbage. You have a great affinity for board games. You're slam poetry enthusiasts, you do yoga, you play Dungeons and Dragons and enjoy escape rooms. You cook from crepes to Thai to vegan. Some of you have earned your Eagle Scout badges. You rescue animals, you foster kittens and puppies. Would like to see those in the courtyard too. You make candles, you knit, you love puzzles, you forage for mushrooms and huckleberries, you sing in bands, photography is a hobby. Some of you have raised pygmy goats. Don't want them in the courtyard, really. Too much mess. You restore forests, you're film buffs, you love reading mysteries, reality TV, and road tripping to national parks. One of you has biked 4,300 miles to raise awareness for refugees. In your pre-SLS life, you were paralegals, consultants, political campaign strategists, volunteers, advocates on behalf of incarcerated individuals, engineers, teachers, student government leaders, speechwriters, crisis counselors, computer programmers, project managers, community organizers, human rights activists, researchers, fellows, scientists, health advocates, economic consultants, military veterans, sexual assault peer counselors, legal assistants, energy advisors, interns across a variety of fields, judicial council members, camp counselors, college newspaper editors, writers, analysts, data scientists, investment bankers and analysts, first aid and emergency responders, disability rights advocates, and a peacemaker. All of you pursuing advanced studies in our JSM, LLM, and JSD programs come with training from around the globe. You hail from 32 countries. You have been practicing attorneys, business leaders, academics, judges, and policymakers in your home countries. As I look out at all of you today, in addition to being amazed by the things you do outside the law, I'm filled with a profound sense of optimism. I know that our collective future is bright because in a few years, all of you will be focusing your considerable talents and energy on making a difference in a myriad ways across the globe. You came here by many different paths, and you will follow many different paths and journeys in your time after Stanford Law School. Your job during your time here is to explore and figure out what path will be meaningful to you. This comes with uncertainty, but I encourage you to embrace that uncertainty and explore. As we all got on with our lives, studies, and careers over the past few years, we were also collectively grappling with challenging societal changes and upheavals, from contested presidential elections and January 6th, to the invasion and ongoing war in Ukraine, to controversial rulings by the US Supreme Court. Law plays a central role as the scaffolding for free, well-functioning societies. In a democratic society based on rule of law, law is the linchpin in translating society's values and aspirations into concrete rules and institutions. Fair laws provide a foundation for building public and private organizations and communities in which people can flourish. When legal systems are dysfunctional, societies cannot thrive. We live in a time of rapid change, which can be frightening, but which also creates opportunities. We're at a moment when we can reimagine law, how it can work better, and help society function better in years to come. Lawyers are vital to the structure of a stable democratic society. As you engage in study, research, and work this year, I hope you will keep that bigger picture in mind of the vital role of lawyers in protecting and promoting the rule of law, fairness, equality, a thriving economic system, freedom, and respect for human dignity. I encourage you to think deeply about what you stand for and about the values that have animated you to seek a legal education. It's incumbent on each of us to ponder what are our core values and how they evolve over our lifetimes. Lawyers have a unique obligation of service to society because of their role in a profession with high barriers of access to entry. It's difficult for ordinary people to navigate the legal system without a lawyer, and the number of lawyers is limited. There are so many ways to serve society across public and private sectors, and you can engage with many of them in your long careers. This year, spend some time thinking about what values have drawn you to this societal role of lawyer. How can you explore those values, develop and express them? How can you put your values into action through service out in the world? Whether it's through pro bono programs, the clinic, volunteer opportunities, here at the law school or at the Haas Center for Public Service on campus, or an entirely different opportunities, more entrepreneurial. I call upon you to turn your attention outward to the world around us and to see where you can be of service to clients and to society. It can be easy in the Stanford bubble to become fixated on small things, your day-to-day life in the classroom and on campus, on striving for some kind of perfection in those immediate surroundings. These things are important, but remind yourself to lift up your gaze, put Stanford in perspective, and live in the world. The continued engagement of every person in the vigorous civic space is vital to the future of society and to the future of societies based on democracy and rule of law around the globe. Winston Churchill had some oft-quoted insight on this question. Many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it's been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. Democracy is hard. People do not always agree on policies, goals, or even fundamental values. Democracy requires somehow working through those differences with one another. It requires listening and persuading rather than just shouting or imposing our will on others, on somehow finding common ground and recognizing our common humanity. Lawyers, despite their reputation, are actually uniquely well-trained to do that. Here at SLS, you learn the importance of engaging with different points of view, of genuine engaged discussion and debate as the way to find new insights and common ground, rather than spinning off into polarization and intolerance. You learn how to identify issues, evaluate facts and evidence, raise awareness, and challenge in words, writing, and action those who would undermine the blessings of liberty that we must continually strive for in our world. Even as students, you have so much to contribute to the world beyond campus. As I stand here describing the hallmarks of the legal education in which we're all engaged, I'm thrilled to be celebrating one of our faculty who is a fundamental part of executing our goals to educate you, one who embodies the spirit of the Barbara Allen Babcock Prize for Excellence in Teaching. Barbara Allen Babcock was the first woman on the Stanford Law School faculty, appointed after establishing a pioneering career providing legal defense services to the poor, including as the first director of DC's Public Defender Service. She was a legendary scholar and teacher here and won the John Bingham Hurlbut Teaching Prize 4 times, in no small part because of her experience and skill as a trial lawyer, her love for the practice of law, her scrupulous preparation for every class, her unique gift for bringing cases and the real-life consequences of litigation to life through storytelling, and the extraordinary effort she made to connect with students of all backgrounds and interests and support them through law school and afterwards as a mentor. This prize was established to recognize instructors in the 1L required curriculum who promote inclusive learning, intellectual rigor, and commitment to the highest standards of professional integrity, mentorship, and service. It's my deep pleasure to award this year's Barbara Allen Babcock Prize to Alicia Thiesing, Director of our Legal Research and Writing Program. Alicia has received exceptional evaluations for her teaching and mentorship of students. One student remarked, "She's so incredibly wonderful and helpful and supportive, I could write an anthem about her amazingness." We'd like to hear it. Students have noted her kindness, warmth, and passion, her thoughtful, incisive, caring teaching style, her clear and careful feedback, and her ability to create an intellectually stimulating environment. Another student said this: "She was the most kind, supportive, and invested instructor I had all year. She took time to give detailed feedback, worked to make sure that students with fears of public speaking felt supported, and dedicated class time to speaking about important but often neglected topics like gender dynamics and oral arguments. It's clear that she cares about her students deeply. I think I and all my classmates felt that." Another student emphasized her dedication to mentorship. "I'd speak with her once a week during the fall term, sometimes asking questions about the LRW brief, and other times just looking for a pep talk and asking some version of, 'I'm okay, right?' She made herself available after the term ended. I spoke with her about pretty much every 1L decision point: journals, pro bono, course selection, summer job, law review, clinics, etc. The student feedback we receive, combined with what we already know about Alicia's dedication to teaching the crucially important skill of legal writing, demonstrates that she embodies the ethos of the Babcock Prize. I'm so pleased to present this honor today. Congratulations.
Let us be together. As this moment comes to a close, we turn now toward the year unfolding before us. May we hold fast to this moment, this very moment of being together right here, right now, as a beloved SLS community, a place of belonging where we can come however we are, whoever we are, exactly as we are, for it is enough. In fact, it is more than enough. May we remember to always follow that which tugs at our heartstrings, listening to ourselves and knowing that intelligence is not that thing we need more of, but that which we already possess lying deep within. And may we be ever mindful of the responsibility obligation and duty that comes with this, our shared vocation, keenly aware always of the vital role of law in weaving and reweaving the very fabric of our shared society. And so now, we head together into this year ahead, lifting our gaze toward the horizon of possibilities for transformation in our own lives, yes, but also in the communities and the world in which we live and move and have our being. May this be so, now and forever. Amen.